Hi, I'm Marie Elizabeth Molly, and this is Relationship Alchemy. Today, we're going to be talking about your new sensual practice, Expanded O's, with Susan Bratton. Susan Bratton is an intimacy expert to millions, and she's a champion and advocate for all those who desire intimacy and passion their whole life long. And I cannot wait to have this conversation. Welcome to the show, Susan.
Thanks, Marie Elizabeth. I'm so excited to be here. We are definitely kindred spirits, my woman.
Oh my God. Just before we started, we were talking and we share so many practices and awarenesses in our background. And so I'm really excited to bring this practice in particular to people because they need it. So tell me a bit about expanded orgasm. Let's start there. Like what did that do for you and how come you teach it?
So today you and I decided we want to focus on having an expanded orgasm practice. And in a nutshell, what an expanded orgasm practice is, the basics, the fundamentals, and we can go as deep as you want on this, is that it's basically a clitoral stroking technique that allows a female body to take the moment of climax and not only stretch that moment of climax, learn how to stay in and ride orgasmic pleasure, but it also allows you to go up your female-bodied arousal ladder, which is different than our male-bodied partner's arousal ladder, very different, and keep getting even more pleasurable intensity. You're stacking like you're going up a set of stairs, even more pleasurable intensity that lasts longer and longer and longer. So I think the most important thing about it is that, number one, it's a practice that couples can do every day for the rest of your life. Number two, it helps you become more massively multi-orgasmic with more intensity and pleasure, more confidence around your orgasm. For many women, it's the beginning of them having orgasms because we've been kind of trying to have orgasms the wrong way. And this way is a more delicate, sensitive way that actually works with the clitoral system better. It's a way that women are allowed to finally just completely receive without having to give. It teaches us to relax into and allow ourselves the time that it takes to begin to orgasm. And I would say that it creates a level of confidence and in yourself and a level of intimate connection with another person in the way that we teach it that you've probably never had before when you've had lovemaking where the two of you are kind of working together, each to co-create simultaneous pleasure. This is a place where you're allowed to relax into and be taken by your partner on an erotic orgasmic ride or journey where they're getting as much pleasure out of the driving as you are the riding of the pleasure. And so those are some of the benefits that I think an expanded orgasm practice has. I spend a lot of time teaching quote unquote Yoni massage, Yoni being the woman's vulva, a tantric lovemaking, a Sanskrit word for the female urogenital system, not just the clitoris, not just the vagina, not just the vulva, which is the outside, but the whole kit and caboodle of which there's massive, delicious, fabulous complexity. And so I like the word Yoni because it sounds like my little Yoni. It sounds sweet and approachable and not medical and not, dirty. So I think that it's a way of expanding a woman's orgasmic potential, but also her confidence in herself and her sexual capacity, which is something that certainly fuels us. And it can be done with any partner, and partners can be trained, and you can have a new partner train them how to do it and have a new partner train them how to do it and pass it on, pay it forward, because it's a beautiful practice that comes with a specific form, a specific set of 5 strokes. That's where you begin, and you do these 5 strokes, and then you can go off piste and try all your other new things that you want to try after that. But it's nice because it's like a yoga practice or a martial arts practice. It's a specific form that has a specific effect on the body that works on the human operating system for massive orgasmic pleasure.
Beautifully described. I just co-sign and celebrate everything you just said. That has been my experience with this practice. And I want to begin with folks on this idea that we've been, quote unquote, doing orgasm wrong. Because I think for my listeners, that might be a pretty new concept. Yeah. And I know that what you're talking about is the difference between the feminine model of orgasm versus the masculine model of orgasm, which is the one we've been taught. Mm-hmm. Can you break that down a bit more and kind of open up what it means to be tracking or allowing yourself to go on the ride of feminine orgasm, of a woman's orgasmic arc, more so than the way we've been taught that was right, so to speak?
Well, it all started in the 60s with the Masters and Johnson chart of orgasm, which looked like you were climbing up a hill and fell off a cliff. Everybody's seen it. We know what it is. And that certainly is one kind of orgasm. And it's definitely the most common kind of male orgasm. And my gripe with the whole nonsense is that we've been what I considered to be having patriarchal sex rather than matriarchal sex. And so often, a lot of times what I talk about, and I'm happy to come back and kind of get deeper into this, I try to describe what it's like when you have sex the way a woman really needs to have sex rather than a woman trying to fit into a man's style of sex. And patriarchal is really a combination of a couple of things. Number one, religiosity. Sex is for procreation, so penetration is the jewel in the crown. Now, don't get me wrong. I love intercourse. It's ultimately my favorite part of sex, but only 1/1,000,000th of a tiny little molecule less than or greater than oral pleasuring, breast pleasuring, kissing, full body touch, and the sensual massage. I mean, I like them all. Once you're good at them, they're all equally awesome. And sex is a learned skill. So yes. This notion that there's foreplay and sex, throw that shit out the door. I don't like it. It's patriarchal, and it doesn't give us. It's like, okay, foreplay is to get to the main event. No. It's all the main event. Number two, men are, and they're getting shortchanged too, by the way. It's not men's fault at all. It is just where we are now, the reality we live in, and what we need to change. Let's just be realistic about it. For the male body, that whole, climax process is shortchanging him too. But he has some competitive advantages physically with regard to the way sex is running in the world today. And that is that he wakes up with a lot of testosterone, a morning erection if he's healthy. He masturbates on a daily basis because he's biologically wired to keep his sperm topped off. So that when a horny woman walks by, he can he can generate his species again. These are just things that are part of his life. And the fourth one is that he has something called fast-acting hemodynamics, which means his penis gets hard really fast. He's got this big banana. Half of it sticks out of his body, half goes in and down. So it's a lot of erectile tissue, but it's 3 straight tubes that basically he looks at your body and gets hard and boink, he's ready to go. And then it's like, oh, okay, we have to rush to have intercourse because he has a hard on. No, we don't. You do not. He can go soft, get hard, go soft, get hard, go soft, get hard, and he will keep up. Don't worry. As long as you can stay present and heart connected, everything will flow. So we got to take the pressure off ourselves in that way. And we've got to take the pressure off ourselves because if you take that banana that we got out of his penis and you turn it into a circle with a point at the top, and you take the skin off your vulva and pop it right in there around your vagina, we have a giant banana's worth of erectile tissue inside our vulva. It's not just the tip of the clit. And so many women. So I was telling you that I have with this 20-year expanded orgasm practice that I am so lucky that I had a girlfriend who said, she's a pleasure coach, been a friend of mine for almost 2 decades. She was 45, having her first child, and said, I want to have an ecstatic home birth. Will you be my ecstatic birth partner? I said, what is that? She said, let's figure it out. So I started giving her Yoni massages on demand. Whenever she could do it and I could do it, she'd come to my house, I'd come to hers, and I would just give her Yoni massages. I did that throughout her pregnancy and was so joyful at experiencing hands-on her changing body, breast, belly, vulva. It was just an incredibly humbling, gorgeous experience we had together. And what was great about it was that I used all of the practice and touch techniques that I had learned on her. I'd never done this before. I'd never had a partner where I'd given them unlimited Yoni massages for as long as they wanted, as much as they wanted. I'd never really done that, but I just took what my husband did to me and started doing it to her. And her comment was, I have never been touched like this before. All I've ever had is a guy furiously rub the tip of my clitoris and then stick his fingers or his penis inside me. Yeah. I had no idea I had all this beautiful tissue. I've never gotten fully engorged. I've never been given the time to become fully tumesced or engorged or get an erection with the same amount of tissue we have in our vulva that our male body partners. His gets super fast acting hemodynamics. Ours is very slow, 20 minutes, 30 minutes to get full engorgement, with a lot of stimulation that is required. And so what I have spent the most of my time doing is trying to get people to understand all the parts of the vulva, how they like to be touched. And the expanded orgasm 5-stroke technique is kind of like the jewel in the crown of that experience. It's a key, but it's just one of the things, but it was the Rosetta Stone for me. It was the unlocking of my orgasmic potential. It was what allowed me to cross the gasm chasm, to close the orgasm gap between how easy it was for Tim to have an orgasm from intercourse and how I was not having any ever. For a decade, 11 years, I had sex with my husband and I never came from intercourse. I didn't want to have sex with him anymore. We found the expanded orgasm practice. And he started doing that to me. He filled me up with orgasms. He slowed down. We engorged my vulva. I got orgasmic. And then I was able to start orgasming from intercourse. And then I just got better and better and better at coming from intercourse. And now I have the most incredible orgasmic intercourse experiences. They're just unbelievable. I have no performance anxiety. I don't worry if I'm going to come. I know my body will work. It's such a nice place to be in my 60s, having the best sex of my life. And it's all due to that expanded orgasm practice where I got to get what I needed in my female body to begin to finally not try and have sex like a man.
Yes. One of the places that I've found when I've talked to women about this practice, and you tell me if this is true for you, is a stumbling block around receiving and not having to give back. That is such an edge for us as women because we're so conditioned to give and that we deserve to receive. We're trained to give and we're trained. Mm-hmm. And so what can you distill for folks how liberating the liberating factor of actually sitting in the discomfort of receiving, stretching our own edges of receiving without having to reciprocate, and what that does for us as women to stretch that edge.
Yeah. One of the things that I think is I'll tell you what the end result of learning how to completely receive is, and then I'll tell you how you get there. The end result is that when you are with a lover and you are a woman who is really in tune with your body's desires in the moment, because so many women say, I don't know what I want. I just know what I'm getting. Isn't it?
Yes.
And I teach women how to understand their felt sense. And I let them know that their Yoni is actually in charge and that you just need to be in service to her. Both of you and your lover are in service to her. And when you're on the same team, Tim and I call ourselves #Team Sweetie. It's kind of the two of us against my Yoni, not against her, but with her, but waiting for her and allowing her, giving her her head. We are her love slaves, because when we give her what she needs, she creates the most incredibly erotic, sensual, orgasmic experiences for us. So we know that we must give her what she needs. And what she needs is a lot of space to slowly warm up. Our arousal ladder starts very, very slowly. Our guides are way ahead of us with all that testosterone and their fast erections and all that stuff. The number one sex technique I say to guys is slow down, turn around, come back and get us, and be very patient and allow us to listen to our Yoni and speak for her, use our upper lips to speak for our lower lips, so that, so that we know where she is and when she's ready for her appetite must build. She must first relax and feel safe, and she must feel unpressured, and she must drop into her body. You must bring your energy to help her relax into her connection, her heart with you. And once you allow that, then not expecting yourself to do anything that you're not ready for, never rushing it. What that really ends up giving you is that your partner knows that what they're getting from you is your true appetite. There's a level of vulnerability and authenticity that come with allowing yourself to slow down to your own body's pace, which is different every time you make love, because your sleep is different. Whether you drank any booze, ate any sugar, got a walk, got sunlight, you're stressed at work, whatever it might be, all those things, where you are in your cycle, even after menopause, all of those things impact your arousal speed, which is really slow in general. And so we think about, when you think about the fact that your lover knows that whatever is happening is true for you, then that makes them know that they are actually really accepted and wanted, and they're getting to see the true turn on that you have for them. It's real turn on. It's not performative, because everything in the media, pornography, everything is performative sex. And I rail against that.
So do I. Yeah.
I mean, Marie Elizabeth, if we could just disconnect from any of the visuals or anything about that stuff, everything we need is within us. Everything we want is within us. Our desires will naturally bubble up. Our orgasms are like a spring inside us. They bubble up and come out. They're already in there. There's no making, doing kind of thing. It's allowing. It's an allowing. And so
I love that distinction. I want to really highlight that. It's not doing or making it happen. I think there's such an effortful language around getting to orgasm when it's always there humming under the surface. Mm-hmm. And when we can allow and open to it, it has full sway. Yeah, keep going.
There's nothing more exciting than a woman who is fully and confidently and completely and truly turned on.
Yes.
Who is expressing her desires, who's telling you what her body's asking for, and you give it to her, and it's exactly what she wanted. And I think the expanded orgasm practice is the gateway to those experiences, because there's kind of some, I would call them some rules of engagement with expanded orgasm. So it's basically a clitoral stroking practice. You lie down with your partner, you butterfly your legs open, you support them with pillows, you get some good, like organic avocado oil is what I like, jojoba. I don't recommend coconut because it disrupts the vaginal microbiome because it's antibacterial. And it's warm, and there's towels, and the light is nice, and the room is the right temperature, and there's music that you love, and you've got a pitcher of water and a couple of glasses, and you've had a vape hit if you want to, or whatever you want to do, and you're just there, connected in co-creating this erotic pleasure together, this orgasmic journey together, and your partner does the 5 strokes, which I can name. I'm just not going to do that right this second because I don't want to overfill people's buckets.
And y'all can find them at the link that's in the show notes. So they're there for you.
Yeah, expandherorgasmtonight.com has 3 free pleasure reports. What is expanded orgasm? It'll explain it in even better detail for you than I can do on a single short podcast. The power of peaking, which is a trick that leverages your sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system to improve your orgasmic response by having your body reach for more. And the third report is called Touching for Rapture, which is one of the tenets of expanded orgasm is that you, whether you're the giver or the receiver, and we call it a doer because it came from something called deliberate orgasm. It also has been called extended massive orgasm, expanded massive orgasm. My version is expanded orgasm, which is has a kind of a Kashmiri Shivist tantric angle to it, because my technique is really for couples. It's not a transactional experience. It's a long-term couples practice. But the doer gets as much pleasure because the doer learns how to feel the receiver in a way where they're feeling. When I was giving my girlfriend ecstatic birth massages, I was coming while she was coming, and her baby was coming. Little Zoe was inside her, just like totally moving around, and she would just awaken in these experiences. She could feel the orgasm. I'm getting goosebumps. She could feel the orgasmic energy too. So this is something you can do with a girlfriend. This is something you can do any vulva owner. This is what's fantastic about it. Yeah. So I lost my train of thought about where I was going. Oh, the 3 free pleasure reports. The third one is called Touching for Rapture, because most of us do what is called touching for effect, where I'm gonna rub this thing and make you come. And 2 things happen with that. Number 1, when you're not limbically connected and you're just doing a touch, you're not being in the touch. You can't, when you can begin to feel and electrically connect with her and energetically, and your nervous systems, your limbic systems all start to like connect. And it takes some practice in the beginning. You get good at it. It's called a practice. When you start riding her orgasm and she's riding the orgasm you're delivering for her, you can literally go into a place where you are touching source. That's why some people call it orgasmic meditation, because it is like the benefits of meditation where you can feel Gaia, source, God, all living being creatures, the energy of the planet, whatever you want to call it. It is a pathway to source. So those 3 reports give you a really solid understanding of the practice. And then inside the program, it tells you, like we show you how to do it. We do a due date. You watch the whole thing. It's narrated by my mentor, Dr. Patty Taylor, who created the program. So it's step by step. And it comes with 21 erotic play dates that each one of them is like a facet of this incredible practice. And so for couples who are wanting to take their sex life to the next level, wanting to have kind of tantric pleasure, wanting to expand their orgasmic capacity, wanting to deeply connect together and have just the most incredible erotic, sensual, co-creative experiences, you can have fun having a date where you just try one of the 21 erotic techniques, practices, play dates. They're essentially different skills that build on your expanded orgasm practice. So it's a really neat program. And I'll tell you that I do it a couple of times a week with Tim. And the one thing that was, and then I'll stop and let you get a word in edgewise, but the one thing that was really, really an important piece of this, because we started the conversation with, how does this help a woman slow down and really connect with her pleasure and not feel like she's quid pro quo. Okay, as soon as he's done, I've got to stroke his penis or whatever. Was that we uncoupled this practice in a relationship from needing to do anything else. So
yes,
what
so
I
key.
yeah, it's like, I think it's the number one key, really. It's not even the strokes and the pleasure. It's the getting out of the quid pro quo. The I'll do this to you if you do something for me. We women are sick of that. We don't want you to do something to us that you get something. What we want is your undivided loving ministrations for our orgasmic pleasure, which we literally never had because all you do is rub our clit and stick it in. And we've got to heal from that. We've got to overcome all of the insults we've suffered in our sexuality from every fucking dimension. I said I wasn't going to curse and I did it twice already. I'm like, I don't want to curse, but I get so impassioned.
Oh, well, it's a passionate thing. But I want to jump in here and highlight, in case anyone's hearing who doesn't have experience with this work, there might be a question of like, well, what's in it for the guy, right? And let me tell you, beyond feeling more connected to one another, beyond, as you stated so beautifully, being able to connect to your woman's actual true turn on and pleasure and arousal. So she's not faking it with you. And she actually feels empowered to start asking for more and wants to ask for more, which is a beautiful dynamic. Another aspect I've seen a lot is that male-bodied people, if we are talking about male-bodied people here, get more intuitive, get more sensitive, get more like they know when to press at work and when to sit back and not say anything and actually start getting promoted faster in their jobs. It happens all the time. And I have this experience with Patrick, with my fiance, where he's not a mind reader, but he's almost a mind reader because he can feel me, whether or not we're touching. He can feel from across the room what's happening with me, and he'll say and do the thing that's just right for the moment, which then gets him my approval, my gratitude, my praise. Like there's a lot of benefits to this practice beyond the bedroom. And I want to just really highlight that both for male-bodied and female-bodied people in the expansion of access to intuition, to sensitivity, to perceptiveness, to tuned-inness, and also the expanded ability to be with high levels of sensation. Like how many times, something like your plane gets canceled and you're at the airport and everybody around you is freaking out, but you're able to stay steady because you know how to stay steady in intensity. Yeah. It's a great skill.
Yes, it is. Yeah. It's interesting. Because I'm a sexpert, I have other lovers. And my current boyfriend of the last 2 years, I taught him how to give me expanded orgasms. And he absolutely loves it. And just recently, he was doing me, and it was like he had upped to a whole new level. And I said, wow, that was just like, you just really got a lot better. Your touch was so incredibly delicate. It was more delicate than it had ever been. And I said, why is that? And he said, well, my other girlfriend, we don't have intercourse. We kiss, we fondle, and I do her. And she is so sensitive that she never wants anything inside her vagina. So that's why we don't have intercourse. She doesn't want it. It's too much for her. And she's so sensitive that she's taught me how to touch her even more lightly. And I could feel that light touch. And then that explained where it came from. And I said, please thank her for me. Wow. Yeah. She just made you an incredibly better lover. Because what happens is, for women, we end up overdriving our clit.
Yes.
The number one thing that holds women back from having an orgasm or having multiple orgasms is that she tries to make, or her partner tries to make her come by overstimulating her clit before she's fully engorged. They're just like driving it, pegging it. And that wears her clit out, and she can't have any more touch. And what the expanded orgasm practice teaches you is to be able to feel, because one of the strokes, the main one is called bread and butter stroke, and I think we should say the strokes next. One of the things that it gets you to do is it gets you to actually feel the meat under the skin. You're not stroking the skin. You're not just rubbing blindly. You're actually making connection with the tissue in the body and finding these little places. And it's a very delicate touch. When you describe the touch, the bread and butter touch to someone, the stroke, the actual real deal stroke right in the center of the experience, the way that it's always been described to me, and I'd like to know if you have any other examples of this. This is the description I use. You know how when you get an eyelash on your eyeball, like stuck inside on your eyeball, and you use the tip of your finger, which has all the nerve endings, to lightly touch that and get that out? That's the touch you want on the clitoral glands. It's that light. And
it's that light.
I can take, more sensation than that. But when he kind of went really, really light, it took me into more orgasmic pleasure. So yes. I have to often unwind everything you're unwinding in this practice.
There's definitely a process.
The bad touch you've gotten so that you can actually achieve your orgasmic capacity through the lightest of touch. Do you have any other examples of that light touch?
Yeah, it's quite similar. Yeah, it's quite similar. The description that I've used has been when you the touch an eyelid, but I actually like yours better because you're even lighter when you're going into the eye to grab that eyelash.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've used a really similar one. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to, we are nearing our time. So I'd love to go through the other strokes just to give people like a taste of it. And then they can go get the free gift and begin the learning. But I do want to make sure that we share about the strokes because, again, I don't think people realize how much is possible. We're used to just turning on a vibrator and slamming it on the clit and hoping for the best. And this is such a level of subtlety and possibility for so much more sensation once the unwinding happens, once the unfreezing. I mean, I notice, a lot of us, our clits are either burned out from too much mechanical or touch pressure, but they can also be kind of frozen from trauma. Like there was an experience in life.
Oh yeah.
And the clit and our vulvas and everything kind of went and froze there.
Yeah.
And for a lot of women, there's a softening and an unfreezing that needs to happen.
Yeah.
And so the lightness of this touch, I remember one of Patrick's previous partners in this practice, the level of touch she required because she had an intense history that she was working through. It was practically like he had to stroke above the lube. Like there's the finger, there's the lube on your finger, and then there's the clit. Yeah. And it was almost like the lube, he couldn't even directly touch. He had to stroke the lube.
Yeah.
And that was the level of pressure that she could open to, right?
Yeah.
And again, we're talking skill here. He's a skilled, trained professional, as is Tim. And, so don't expect your partners at the first go to get the level of touch right because they've never done this before. Like, be gentle.
The joy is learning together.
And the joy is learning together and learning to say, a little lighter, please. A little lighter, please. Not a little lighter, please. You're doing it wrong. But just, like, oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. A little lighter, please. Okay. And finding together the place at which you can soften and open. I think that's key. So let's have the goal 4 strokes.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So the 5 strokes, there's 3 opening strokes, the bread and butter stroke, and the closing stroke. And there's a lot that comes before it, or calming you down, getting you in your body, setting the lover space, safe porting you, connecting hearts, getting everything ready. So what I don't want you to do is like, go home and try this without all the other stuff that it takes to actually get there. And the strokes are basically 3 opening strokes are lube application strokes. So there's a lot of glide. And they are essentially 3 that are kind of on the vulva, 1 that's kind of on the outside, and then 1 and comes up and bypasses the clitoris, goes from the bottom of the vulva to the top, bypasses the clitoris, 1 that comes up on the outside and kind of rests on the clitoris, and then 1 that goes in between the interlabia and strokes up and then meets the clitoris. So the clitoris finally gets that touch that it wants. And then there's a drawback on the mons and clitoral hood. And then the one hand goes under her buttocks a little bit with a thumb resting at the opening to her vagina, which is very grounding. Nothing's going in. It's protected. It's just there, making you feel safe and comforted. And then your finger starts to stroke essentially under the hood on the clitoral glands, the tip of your clitoris, because your clitoris has a shaft and a glands, just like a penis. It's a mini penis. And often for women, it's on the left side, just off the top on her left side. They call that 2 o'clock. And you're not stroking the skin. You're stroking the clitoral body, the actual meat of the glands inside under the skin, very lightly. And there'll be a spot that just feels really good to her. And you'll start to know when you connect with it. And so you're just stroking, and you do the peaking, stroking, peaking.
Without going over.
Well, I think if we get into that level of conversation here, it'll be very confusing for you.
Right.
It's very well described in Expand Your Orgasm Tonight. And it could be like, oh, that sounds too confusing. It's not, but there is some language that you gain in the practice that helps you understand how to take this woman into go to the first step, have her experience of her orgasm, take her up. She's got more orgasm, take her up. It's even better and getting more strong, take her up. And it's getting even better and better and better. I've lately begun to think about them as quantum orgasms because they're expanding in both time, space, duration. Every part of the orgasm is expanding. It's not just that it's lasting longer or getting better. It's doing those things. And energetically, your connection is growing to yourself and to your partner as well. There's a lot of dimensionality of the pleasure in this simple, light, little tiny stroke. And then the last stroke is a grounding stroke because you've brought a lot of blood flow in. And so what you want to do is cup the vulva with a little towel on top to kind of sop up the lube and just to comfort her and to ground her at the end. Everything's a slow movement. You don't take both hands off of her body. There's a lot of pieces of lovely, beautiful, exquisite pleasure that you learn in these erotic play dates.
Beautifully described. Thank you.
Sure.
And I'm so excited for more people to have access to this practice.
Yeah,
thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah.
You can find more about Susan in the show notes, all the social media links, website, this beautiful gift of the practice itself, and the 3 different reports. Did you call those reports?
Pleasure reports.
The pleasure reports. And thank you so much for gracing us with your wisdom and your delight and your beautiful orgasmic. I'm just over here on fire listening to you. So we're both going to go out of it. We're going to go on a due date now. It's time for a due date. And you know what's beautiful about this is a world that becomes possible when women meet together in support of each other's arousal, in support of partnerships that are uplifting the feminine, uplifting connection, working to eliminate the one up, one down kind of patriarchal situation we've been in for hundreds of years, and really coming to this co-arising where co-creation and collaboration and all these values of upliftment are actually embodied and enacted in our lives.
Yeah. And we're doing our male-bodied partners a great service too, because they're caught in the same paradigm that's not serving them either.
That's right.
So we're lifting all up with this incredible practice, expanded orgasm. I love it so much. So thank you so much, Maria Elizabeth, for having me and being someone who also has the experience, because there aren't that many of us. I mean, there actually are a lot of us, but there aren't enough of us yet. We're spreading the word about this incredible practice that helps women achieve their potential. And so thank you so much for giving me an opportunity. And I knew when we talked this morning, I'm like, okay, here's what I want to talk about.
And I was a yes. I'm a yes.
What were you thinking we were going to talk about? What did you want to talk about today?
Oh, that's such a good question. I thought I knew we were going to talk about something related to intimacy and sexuality and connection. But I felt it was going to be maybe more surface or general. And I love that we went to the specific, that we went to an actual actionable practice, and a practice that is so dear to my heart, and that I don't get to talk about much. And so to speak about it with someone who has such a depth of knowledge like you and who's really steeped in the practice. I mean, I've been doing it for almost a decade. You've got 2 decades. Yeah. And so, it's not every day that we get to have this conversation at this depth, And so for me, this has been super nourishing. And I hope transformative.
I feel so bonded
our
to
listeners.
You.
I know, isn't that funny?
It's like we're soul sisters because of this practice, because we have something that we want every woman to have.
Yes, exactly.
Every vulva.
And every vulva owner, right, regardless of how they identify. Yeah. And to me, again, like that's what becomes possible for us as a species as we move out of this era of competition and really into this era of mutual upliftment and support and recognition. Yeah. And thank you for spearheading that.
Thank you for
spearheading the way showers. And so I'd love to hear from y'all. How's this episode landing with you? Are you going to try the practice? Let me know. Message me on social media. You're welcome to reach out. And until next time, remember that a great relationship starts with you.